Hello everyone. Today we're going to talk about Cats, the best piece of art ever made. Cats is a 1981 musical by Andrew Lloyd Webber and a later revival in 2015 and a masterpiece in 2019, a film that was one of the last made before the downfall of civilization. So, age-old question. What is the plot of Cats? The type of plot Cats has is very abstract. I'd say at its heart, Cats is a story of becoming something new in the face of your past and moving on. But honestly, it's about cats. What is the story of Cats? Well, if you're expecting like an ordinary story structure, you are going to be very, very, very disappointed. The Cats story is more in the line of something like Hair. It introduces you to a world, and before you even meet any of the central characters, you're really introduced to just all these different people that inhabit this world. And you're taken in, and there are people running through the audience and going in your face, and it's insanity. For me, that's what theater is all about. In the movie, they really try hard to shoehorn a plot in. They take all the celebrities that can't dance and or don't want to be in the dance numbers because they couldn't afford to pay them for that many days on set, and they put them on a boat. Idris Elba's Macavity boat, and Macavity is like a reoccurring presence, which I actually thought was alright, because I think Macavity in the musical is one of those forgettable cats. They take all the people that aren't celebrities, and Jason Derulo, who I just think really wanted to be there, and they turn them into like this little crew. In the musical, there's a lot of stuff that's just directed right at the audience, you know? It's about you are coming into the world of the Jellicle Cats, you know? Most of the time, they're just facing the audience. They're talking to you. They filmed a version of this show, and they handled this pretty decently there, with just kind of like funky camera angles. But in the movie, they have Victoria, who is a cat that is kind of like the audience insert, and she sings the original Taylor Swift song, which is horrible and was apparently written in about an hour or so. But however, like Hair, we are introduced to a central character around a quarter way through, Grizabella, the glamour cat. This is based on a poem that when T.S. Eliot's wife found out Andrew Lloyd Webber was doing this musical, she gave him this hidden, undiscovered T.S. Eliot poem that was too dark and depressing for his original book. Now, Cats is based on a book of poems, if you don't know, Old Possum's Book of Practical Cats, which is kind of just cute poems about cats, you know? Andrew Lloyd Webber loved this book and decided to turn it into an experience. I know T.S. Eliot's wife didn't really want it to turn into like a cutesy thing, like Winnie the Pooh. So we got this. Sexy Cats. Now, Grisabella's story is that she used to be a star. She used to be a wonderful cat. And now she is old, she's worn down, and no one really likes her anymore. She sings a very powerful song about this. And that overall is the storyline they go into in this show. It really is a story of moving on and wanting to become something new. The plot is that the Jellicle Ball is coming up, and they announce it in the beginning of the show, and then all the cats go to the Jellicle Ball, which is basically this big dance battle to see who gets to have a new life. And throughout this, you're introduced to all these different cats as you're introduced to the world. And in the movie, they pose some interesting questions on why does each cat want a new life. because they're all competing for a new life, which is basically, they're dying, but I guess cats have 9 lives is kind of what they were going for there. It's weird. It's really weird. Obviously, at the end, spoilers, Grizabella gets chosen. Old Deuteronomy is kind of the leader of the pack, the cat who has lived the many lives, and I guess is on one of the later ones, perhaps the 9th. The other cats are all competing, but it really brings up an interesting question, interesting query here. We all want a new life. We all want to be something else, but in each of us, we are kind of living our supreme life. I mean, every single cat in the beginning of the show, sans Grizabella, is having a good time, is having a fucking killer time. Busterfer Jones is eating lots of food. Jenny Anydots has an army of mice and cockroaches to do her bidding while she does flashy musical numbers in the middle of the night. Skimbleshanks is living on a train, having a blast. They're all happy. Rum Tum Tugger is getting all those pussy cats, if you know what I mean. Mr. Mistopheles can do fucking magic. They're all having a ball here. It really asks the question of, we always want a new life, and why do we want a new life when a lot of times we are happy in our lives, But sometimes there comes a point when you're old and you've peaked. You've reached your peak in the past, and then you have to move on and you have to become something new. But that doesn't have to mean death. It could just mean the end of something, because you don't die, you start a new life. Cats is less of a musical and more of an experience. Again, I want to compare it to Hair. It follows the structure of, introducing characters and then taking you into the world, There are people up on stage, there are cats in the audience. And for Hair, it was to take you into the world of the hippies, who were a very real thing in New York, but weren't really the audience of these Broadway shows. And it brought this to stage and brought light to some very real issues, which made it a phenomenon. And they'd do some crazy shit. They'd run through the aisles naked, and they'd a lot of the cast was just actual hippies. Cats does not have any actual cats in it. You are welcomed into this cat gang. Now they're a gang of stray cats, which I think the movie actually portrays kind of cool. They repurposed this set a lot and just kind of redecorate it to show all these different locations. In the musical, the set is this junkyard, that they're all living in. And I think it would be a cool anime. I think if they made an anime and did an episode about each cat, and they were all sexy cat people, it would be the #1 anime in the world. But they made this. Grizabella is introduced in kind of the middle, which is a trend you also see in Hair, with the protagonist Claude, who also dies at the end, spoilers, not being introduced until around the middle of Act 1, and being introduced with the same level of prominence as all the other cats. They're people in Hair. Grizabella was just introduced as a regular cat, but you could tell, obviously, she's normally the one that there's a celebrity in the role. She kind of disappears after that, because normally the actress is not a dancer. And after Grizabella first appears, they continue introducing to this cat world. They just go on with their lives. And after the Jellicle Ball, she can't dance because she's too old, and they don't want to pay her to do that. Grizabella comes to Old Deuteronomy and says, all these guys have pretty bomb-ass lives, but I have memories, but now they're gone, and I just want a new life. And the climax of this song is really about how a new life needs to be given by forgiveness, by other people welcoming you in. when you're so stuck in your memories, you're never gonna start that new life. So you have to move on. It's really quite a beautiful message, and that's probably why the song got so popular. The show itself also got ridiculously popular. I mean, it ran for like 20 years. We had 20 years of Cats. So the original song, Beautiful Ghosts by Taylor Swift and Andrew Lloyd Webber, is kind of stupid. It's about like, well, you know, at least you have good memories. That doesn't help my problems, Victoria. I'm like, life fucking sucks for me. In the movie, Victoria is almost kind of the spoiled Grisabella, because Victoria is obviously like the young and pretty cat that is well liked, even if she's a stray cat, and Grisabella is the old cat who's, you know, kind of at the end of her life, you know, and is looking back and is kind of sad that she's not there anymore. With the new life in the musical, there's a cat, Jemima, comes up and is the youngest cat of the tribe, and then later Victoria, and they touch her, and they make contact with her, you know, because children are a lot more accepting than adults are, and children will accept the types of people that mostly society would shun. Lastly, we have to just say, you know, Hal, it's about cats. Judi Dench states it best at the end. Cats are much like you and me. A cat is not a dog. Dogs will just be happy all the time, deliriously happy, and just doing their thing, you know? Cats are assholes. Cats will knock over your shit. They'll climb on things. They just like kind of like jumping around and climbing on your shit, and they really have no regard for anything you're doing. And they'll just kind of sit on you sometimes. And like if you try to pet a cat, most of the time they'll just get pissed at you. Cats aren't dogs, and I feel like that's the point of this show. And you can see that with all the different cats in this show. There are fat cats. There are cats that fuck up your shit. There are cats that do whatever they want, and there's no doing anything about it. There are cats that live on trains, which I think is actually one of my favorites, because it's a cat that lives on a train. That's just so cute. Like again, like I want a little TV show about that guy. I really do think an animated Cats movie, a truly animated Cats movie or show, could be successful in the future. Could actually work. Even a TV show, to kind of elaborate on it, I feel like you could have a medium where Cats is normal to some extent. I feel like anime is what it is, because I mean the definitions of normal and anime are kind of slim, but I don't really know much about anime. I've seen Sword Art Online and Attack on Titan, so I'm kind of an expert. There are all different kinds of cats, and this show is really just a love letter to cats, ultimately. I think that's kind of admirable. I think when you kind of look past all the cats, you can really find kind of a beautiful story in there. It really is an experience. I think there was this wonderful quote in Lindsay Ellis's video: "Cats transports you to a world that can only be created with theater." And that is why I love theater, and I think that's the goal of any theatrical production. So in a way, Cats is the best musical of all time. Ultimately, it's about cats, and I think that's a cool concept for a show. It's crazy. I don't know why he thought of it. It's batshit fucking crazy. It's bonkers. But I'm glad it exists. I'm glad it's one of the last pieces of human civilization that hopefully generations later they will find and think was the greatest piece of media of all time, and these were our cat gods that we worship like the Egyptians. Thank you for coming to this video, and tune in next week when we talk about the well-known sequel Dogs, which does not exist yet. Farewell. They have these PSAs on anti-smoking and on drunk driving that they made in the 90s. and they're just terrifying. I think they probably were really effective in scaring people out of smoking cigarettes and drunk driving, because they just really live in your nightmares.